Hello, welcome to Bragbe TV. If you are new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification so you don't miss our next video. History of Egyptian Revolution. On January 25th of 2011, the world sat by and watched as Egypt witnessed an uprising that claimed several lives, and that led to several changes in power and who held it. It is commonly known as Egyptian Revolution and sometimes as January 25th Revolution. That particular day was picked by the youth who championed this revolution because it fell on the annual Egyptian police holiday, and they wanted it to serve as a statement against the rise in police brutality that had become rampant in the last few days of Mubarak's presidency. What started out as a civil protest led to violent clashes between the police and the protesters, resulting in the death of at least 846 people and over 6,000 injured. The protesters paid the police back, but not in kind or cash, but by burning down over 90 police stations across the nation. People don't just wake up one day and decide that such violence should happen. There is usually a trigger, and in this case, there were several factors. Top on the list was police brutality, with the police abusing their powers and getting away with it. Other factors that led to this were lack of political freedom, high unemployment, low wages and salaries, corruption, excessive inflation, especially on food prices, and state of emergency laws. The state of emergency laws was first used after the Six-Day War of 1967, but it was suspended for 18 months in the early 1980s. But it has been in effect since then. What that does is that it extends police powers, put a pause on constitutional rights, legalized censorship, and abolished habeas corpus, which is the right to be tried in a court of law before detaining or jailing. It limits things such as demonstrations, unapproved political organizations, and unregistered financial donations, no matter how worthy the occasion. By the time the revolution happened, Mubarak's regime had reached his 30th year, and it was reported that he was planning on having his son inherit his position as president. Egyptians were not happy with any of those, as they wanted things to change. Mubarak's party maintained a one-party rule under a state of emergency. After his re-election in 2006, there were demands for reforms and a multi-candidate election. Also, there were several oppositions to inheritance of power. In fact, the country launched an online campaign initiative in 2006 called the National Initiative Against Power Inheritance that demanded that Gamal, Mubarak's son, reduces his power. During his regime, political corruption hit the roof, especially amongst the people in his interior ministry, as a result of increased control of the system necessary to keep them in power. A lot of things were accomplished by the revolution, some of them good and some of them very bad. The most prominent is the overthrowing of the Mubarak government, which is why the revolution happened in the first place. Other notable outcomes are the resignation of Prime Ministers Nazif and Shafik, assumption of power by the military, disbanding the State Security Investigation Service, suspension of the constitution, and dissolution of the parliament, dissolution of Mubarak's political party, and the transferring of all their assets to the state. Others include the arrest and prosecution of Mubarak, his sons, and former ministers, a democratic election for the first time in 30 years to vote in Mohamed Morsi, and the lifting of the 31-year state of emergency law in the nation. A lot of these outcomes are great and even celebrated in the nation, but they also came at a great cost, as several people lost their lives to make it happen. Aside from the estimated death toll of 846 people and 6,467 injured, 12,000 people were arrested. After the revolution, about 300 deaths were recorded. A lot can be said for standing your ground and fighting for what you want. The Egyptians did, and although it wasn't entirely a happy ending, it achieved something for them. What's your take on Egyptian Revolution? Let's know in the comment section. Will it be ridiculous to subscribe to our channel? If no, please like this video, share and subscribe to our channel.